Good evening and welcome to the Boston Bruins media availability with head coach Bruce Cassidy. Please use the raise hand function to ask a question. Remember to keep it down to one question and also unmute when called upon. We'll start with Matt Porter.
Hey, Bruce. That was certainly something. I'm sure you'd be asked this a bunch of different ways, but in as much detail as you'd like to or as you can, what was this night like for you? What were you doing? What were the guys doing?
Well, I mean, it's obviously strange to wait that long and then find out you may or may not play. Then you start thinking, well, is it going to be productive to play at 10 o'clock at night? You start thinking of the safety of the players, the ice conditions, a number of different things. Having said that, what are the options to not play? Tomorrow there's two scheduled games already at 3 and 8. So it comes out of your hands anyway, Matt, to be honest with you. As a coach, you're just thinking, okay, how do you prepare your players that have been sitting around that long? And that's a tough one to answer because you typically don't go through that, right? And especially the goaltenders, they're a little dialed in all day and a little earlier. So it'd be tough on Tuukka and Mrazek for sure.
We'll go to Matt Fautour.
Coach, you just mentioned the goaltenders. Is that having to play two games now so close together on Wednesday and Thursday? Do you put at least a bug in Yaro's ear that you might go to him on Thursday, or do you have a plan in mind?
We do. We're going to let the game play out first tomorrow. The good news about the back-to-back, there is I'll call it a day and a half, I guess. It's not quite, but you know what I mean, a 12 o'clock game and an 8 o'clock game. So there's a little more rest than typical. No travel involved. So it may depend on the workload of Tuukka. Obviously, we'll discuss it with him. We're very comfortable with both goaltenders. And I've heard Rod say it on the other side. He proved it. He used them both against the Rangers. So I don't think it'd be an issue for him either. It just happens to be two teams that typically do use both goaltenders. So that's a bit of a fortunate break for both teams.
We'll go to Mike Petraglia.
Bruce, you're a hockey fan as much as you are a hockey coach as well, I'm sure. And I'm just curious, when you're watching that drama unfold, and obviously it impacts whether or not you do your job later in the evening, I'm curious if you have some appreciation for what those two teams, Columbus and Tampa Bay, just went through.
Oh, a tremendous amount. Particularly Columbus, who just played an elimination game Sunday and probably felt they got the short end of the stick in the schedule coming back in an afternoon game a day and a half later, right? So, and really, I'm not criticizing the league. I'm just saying the way this tournament is going, you kind of have to live with the scheduling, and including your practice times, pregame skates, a lot of different things that you're not accustomed or maybe scheduling yourself. So right out of the gate, they got a quick turnaround, and to be able to play that long and continue with their style, that's the other thing. They didn't get away from Columbus Blue Jackets hockey. They were blocking shots, clogging the lanes, managing the puck the whole night. They didn't decide somewhere along the line, well, let's just trade chances and see if that works out for us. So, and on the flip side, Tampa, they hung in there, played their game, grinded it out, good goaltending on both sides. So obviously you do feel for the players at some point. Whatever team loses is going to wish they lost sooner, simply because, it's mentally tougher on them. But at the end of the day, I think both teams will come back, and it'll be another great game. The next end game too for both of them. Columbus has proven that in the playoffs, and Tampa, one of the better teams in the league, very resilient group themselves. So great start to what should be a great series.
Go to Kevin Dupont.
Hi, Butch. Again, we're not there, so if you can try to paint the scene a little for us. I assume you got there as usual, like around 3 o'clock, a couple hours before the game. Did you watch kind of down in the tunnel, or did you watch on TV? And when did you finally get wind that maybe this was going to get rolled ahead to the next day?
Yeah, our day, we were at the morning skate this morning. We had an optional. We have our extra guys skate. So we're over there at 8 o'clock, and then we're back around 12:30, 12, something like that. And then we're back to the rink. It wouldn't have been 3 for us, Kevin, an 8 o'clock game. Especially without our own workspace. One of the things that you guys don't get to see is we're working out of the bunker suites as coaches, and they're near all where your team locker room is. So we're actually crossing paths with the Tampa and the Columbus coaches as we're going to work in our suite because they're near us. That's a bit of a unique situation you're just not used to. You don't see the other staff. Maybe in the meal room, correct? We'll see the media guys and you might, say hello or cross paths there. But here you're doing it a lot. So you're trying to stay out of the way. They're cleaning the floors between periods. So now you're limited when you can leave, and you don't want to bump into the other coaches or players coming onto the ice. You don't want to disrupt their sort of routine. So it's a very interesting dynamic in that regard. So we don't go quite as early. We're there at say 5 o'clock, 5:15. And then we watched it on TV in that bunker suite, pretty much the whole thing. And I guess to your last question, I think somewhere around the second overtime, a league representative came down and said, this will be the protocol because you're not going to start on time. Might have been the first overtime. And they kind of walk you through the timeline of, how quick they can turn the ice around and for warm up, et cetera. Then eventually the league made a decision that to call it till tomorrow morning.
Go to Mike Loftus.
Hi, Bruce. So as you guys are waiting, do you have a locker room that you can use, or
the players do? Absolutely, yeah. They there's 4 locker rooms here. They're all excellent. There's the Leafs, there's the Leafs visitors, the Raptors, and there's a media room which they've changed into a locker room, which has worked out quite well. So, and the suites that the coaches are working out, there's access to that locker room. But like I say, there's some shared hallways because players are, if you've been to Scotiabank Center, I was going to call it Maple Leaf Gardens, you can know the visiting and the home locker room are very close to each other anyway. So they're not on opposite sides of the rink. So, and the Raptors is just down the hall. So there's a little bit of that, I said, intersection of players, and it's playoffs. So you want to respect their space and time. So you're trying to work around that. So, but the players have their own locker room, their own area to stretch, and medical facilities, and, food was brought in. I don't know, honestly. I think, there's always stuff there before the game, but during the game, maybe, peanut butter and jelly, banana sandwiches, whatever the player, protein shakes. I'm not sure what they have, to be honest with you, Mike. I had a piece of pizza. I'm not going to lie to you. It was delicious. It was about, 9 o'clock. I think I was getting hungry as the rest of the coaches, but I don't think the players are eating that. So, but anyway, that's what we did. We just waited it out. Wait for the word, or, you're ready to go. You try to stay sharp, without, getting too anxious. And if they tell you you're playing, you're playing. If not, you get ready for tomorrow.
Go to Fluto Shinzawa.
Bruce, maybe if the Point had scored earlier, maybe there's a chance you start 10:30, 11. What would have been the danger in terms of player safety, just starting that late?
Well, the first is the ice conditions, which after 7 periods of hockey or whatever it is, 7.5. I don't care how good you are at maintaining ice. There's going to be some deterioration, and then a little bit of the fatigue, like you're waiting around. What if our game goes into overtime? Now all of a sudden players are playing at, could be 1 o'clock in the morning, Fluto. Is that right? I mean, is that appropriate for maybe just a 1 overtime game, especially if you've been at the rink since 5 o'clock? So I think there's a little bit of that. I guess the flip side is, it's unique all around this year. So, play a game at 11 o'clock. I just think they made the right call personally for the player safety. We'll get the game in tomorrow. We'll have to deal with the back-to-back situation. So there's always a little adversity somewhere, but we're just, like I said, ready to go tomorrow. And I think, honestly, Fluto, the players can best answer that question about, what their concerns would be.
Go to Emily Benjamin.
At what point does it start to creep into your mind that this may not happen tonight? And what sort of is the thought process as that happens? Do you just keep watching? Do you start altering your plans and looking at what's going to happen the next day? What goes through your mind at that point?
Well, we've done all the work, Emily, for preparation. We had our meetings in the morning, a little bit of Carolina. Got Columbus on my head now after watching them all night. Carolina, systems, our special teams. We do some of those in the morning. We might do the power play once we get to the rink. So we've basically covered all that. That's not going to change in between now and 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. So be a pretty clean slate tomorrow. Get there. Let's play. We've covered everything. And as for, like I said, the league notified us that it may not happen. So that's when you start thinking about, okay, well then what's the advantage of playing tomorrow? and again, it's a little bit of an easier time. I would think players typically are used to practicing at 11:30, somewhere around there. I'm not sure there's very many of them used to starting a game at 10, well, wouldn't have been 10 o'clock, would have been, I'm guessing, closer to 11 at night. So that part of it, I think, would be a lot easier for the players' preparation.
Go to Dan Roche.
Hey, Bruce, just kind of following along those lines, put yourself in the shoes of a player. It was the first game, in a Stanley Cup game up here. How excited were they, and how tough is that mentally on them? And also, what was your message to them as you kind of said goodbye and broke it up for the night?
Well, I mean, it's tough because we want to play. Coming out of the round robin, we feel that this is what we were getting ready for all season, to be honest with you. This didn't just happen last week. This was started back in October, that we were preparing for building our game towards having another playoff run. That was I think we put that out there openly, that we called it unfinished business. And so now we've done the prep work the last 10 days, plus the 2 weeks at Warrior. And now we're ready to get going. It's 16 teams left. It's best of 7. It's your traditional playoffs. So disappointing we didn't get to play tonight. But once the night drags on, Dan, I think, like I said, players start, well, are we going to play? Is this really happening? So 11 o'clock to me we'll have the same emotion there tomorrow. I really believe that. So it should be, and I think Carolina will be the same. To be honest with you, both teams will get a good night's sleep and they'll be back to work tomorrow.
Our last question will be from Sophia Yurkskovich.
Hi, Bruce. I know you answered many times of what was going on while you guys were waiting, but you said you were in the coach's bunker. Did you have eyes on the guys in terms of the trainers and what they were getting them to do? Were they allowing them to kick the ball around? Did they want them to keep loose, stretch, or preserve some of that energy? Can you fill me in there, or did you not have eyes on them that much?
In and out. I was watching the game. So were they. No soccer allowed in this that I've seen yet, unless the guys found a hallway. I may be wrong on that, Sophia, but because of the closeness, proximity of the locker rooms and the players coming and going, that our warm-up time is when they're still playing. So I imagine that they've decided to outlaw that, but they could have done that where I didn't found a quiet spot, to be honest with you. No, players were just kind of waiting around, wondering what was happening, and watching the game, encouraging both teams to shoot, so get the game over with. And then after a while, it becomes, well, what happens if this goes any longer type of thing. So now they start to have questions, and we tried to answer them the best of our ability. Like I said, the league did a good job. They kept us informed what would happen. It was going to be pushed back, and then eventually it was called. So that's the message we relayed to them. And we left it at that, basically, that, hey, this is game 1 of the playoffs tomorrow. We'll be ready to go. We've put our work in. Just come to the rink ready to play. Let's get after it and enjoy it. We've earned our right to be here. So, it just got pushed back 16 hours or whatever it was, and we'll be ready to go tomorrow.
Thanks very much, Coach. That'll end our Bruins media availability.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, and have a nice evening.